Hey everybody, it's meteorologist Aaron Treadway back here, and today we're going to talk about clouds. Clouds are awesome. Clouds are one of my favorite things to just sit there and look at, whether it's a, summer day where it's just some cumulus clouds out there, the puffy cotton candy looking clouds, or it's the big thunderstorm cumulonimbus clouds. But we'll talk about this guy pictured here. His name is Luke Howard, and he's actually the guy responsible for naming clouds, coming up with the nomenclature, the way that we name clouds today. And he did that in the very early 1800s. So cloud naming has been around for a long time. Clouds are actually a really important part of the water cycle. We haven't talked about the water cycle, but very much, without the water cycle itself, there would almost be no weather because, the condensation from oceans and lakes and everything to form those clouds in the atmosphere is very much one part of it. And then obviously the precipitation, then the runoff and all is another part. So clouds and just all this moisture that we've talked about so many times, that's a big part of weather in the atmosphere is part of the water cycle. So I wanted to mention it here. Here's just a broad overview of a lot of the different types of clouds. You can see high, mid, and low level clouds. So this is actually a weather chart, a sky chart that's free available online if you want to go and download this. I've sent the link to your teacher, and it'll be in the description of this video as well. So it's a really kind of cool chart that you can download that shows you the different types of clouds. There actually were 11 new cloud types added earlier this spring. A lot of these were just kind of specific names given to clouds that we had already observed. For example, this cloud here on the left, it kind of folklorish had been called the hole punch cloud, as it's basically a hole that's punched in a cloud deck. It now has a name. The middle clouds here used to be called Kelvin-Helmholtz wave clouds. They now have a name, the Fluctus cloud. And that the asperatus clouds also are another new type of clouds. And so this actually are the first 11 new types of clouds in many, many years. Here's another just overview of the main types of clouds. Now instead of in chart form, now we're actually kind of looking like what they would be in the atmosphere. So you see the low-level stratus and cumulus clouds, the mid-level altocumulus, altostratus, and the high-level cirrus clouds. And obviously the big cumulonimbus cloud is kind of the king of them all when it comes to clouds, and it can stretch all the way from the surface up to over 23,000 feet. We've talked about that. That's the big thunderstorm clouds that can reach actually up to the tropopause and possibly even into the stratosphere. So that's just kind of the overview of all the different types of clouds, but really naming them is all about the roots, and we're talking about Latin roots here. And this goes back to Luke Howard and his naming convention that he created. So I have a table here of some of the different Latin roots. Cumulus translates loosely into a heap of clouds. Stratus is a layer. The beginning of the word cirr usually means curls of hair or high clouds. Nimbus infers that there's rain and precipitation out of the clouds. And alto means mid-level clouds. So using these different Latin roots, we can actually kind of put together what various cloud types are just by those 5 Latin roots there. So let's take this one for example. So here's a picture, and it's a flat layer cloud that produces rain. So looking at the roots, so it's a layer cloud, so it's a stratus cloud, and if it's going to produce rain, then it's also probably got nimbus in it. So if we look here, it's actually a nimbostratus cloud. So we can actually, by observing the cloud and kind of where it's at and what it's doing weather-wise, can pretty much guess what the type of cloud is. So let's try another. So what about this one? Now, you can probably look at it and kind of know what it is because we've talked about them a lot, but a tall heap of clouds that produces rain and thunderstorms. So again, the rain and thunderstorms is the nimbus, and the heap of clouds is cumulus. So when you put those two together, you get cumulonimbus. So As you can see, it's just about putting the roots together in terms of the naming of these various clouds. So you'll actually get a chance to do this at the end of the presentation. I'll have two sets of clouds that you can kind of look at and figure out for yourself. The last thing I wanted to do, and this link will be in the description as well, but these are actually a couple of pictures that I took a couple of years ago in New Braunfels, Texas, where I'm from. And these are more of those wave clouds, and they're again called Kelvin-Helmholtz wave clouds. Basically, it's when two layers of the atmosphere are going two different speeds that creates wind shear. We've talked about shear a little bit. And what that does is just like kind of in the ocean, when the ocean's going two different speeds with the friction and everything, you get waves. The same thing happens in the atmosphere. So you get these little wave clouds here. And so they happen a lot of the times throughout the day, during the mornings, but it's those two different layers of the atmosphere that are different. And because I took these pictures, because I posted them on the National Weather Service page, the Weather Channel actually called our office and I did a phone interview with the Weather Channel. So you can click this link. Again, it'll be in the description of this video. And you can watch that. So I go into a little bit more about the clouds, and it's just a really fun interview. So to end this presentation, and I'm not going to tell you the answer of these two on the video, but here are two different types of clouds. Go back and use those 5 Latin roots there from a couple of the slides and see if you can figure out what these two are from these pictures. So the left 2 pictures are one type of cloud, and the right 2 pictures are another type. And so see if you can figure out what each of them are just by using those Latin roots. And if you need to, there's the cloud charts and everything in this presentation as well. I hope you enjoy it and very much enjoy looking at the clouds, figuring out what shapes they are, figuring out what types they are, and what weather they produce, or just what funny person or face or feature they might look like.